Hello everyone. Wow, what a difference a couple of weeks make, huh? So the coronavirus has hit the United States, and many companies now are in a mad scramble to have their employees work from home, and that's a very good strategy to take because of social distancing that's required. This is the first in a series of podcasts by me. I call it Leadership During the Coronavirus Crisis, and this one's on remote work. This will be the first in a series of podcasts on remote work. And this one, I'm going to give you an overview of how to set up effective and very successful remote work practices. Now, I did this first with Medtronic Coronary and Peripheral in Santa Rosa, California, working with a very good team from corporate and the local and very supportive management team there in Santa Rosa. And we had a lot of success. We called it a flexible work environment, where we actually, when you counted the sales force, ended up having about a little over 40% of the workforce working from home 3 to 4 days a week or at customer sites or supplier sites. And what we saw was an increase in productivity, an increase in morale, both with the home-based workers and those that were in the office. And the home-based workers were particularly more productive and happy because they didn't have that commute to put up with. Also, we saved a lot of carbon emissions. And so all this is good work, and that facility up there saved about $2 million a year by implementing this program. Now, in the crisis of the coronavirus, it's like, okay, the mad scramble, everybody head home, take what you need with you, and we'll figure out how to contact and stay in touch with each other as we go. Very understandable. What this is about is a timely podcast to help you pick up the pieces from where you let off with your work and to keep the organization productive, feeling connected, particularly feeling connected to your top strategies and goals, and providing a good experience to employees. Before the coronavirus, work from home or remote work was a growing trend, with over 4.7% of the American work, or 4.7 million, of the American workforce working from home. That's about 3.4%. When you look at gig workers, then if you add them to it, then it's really about 1/3% of the workforce, again, working 1 or more days at home. Now we are just exploding through that with people working at home where they can, full time. And that's quite something quite extraordinary. When you think about working from home, I always start with different styles that people have at work and who can work at home and who cannot. And certainly if you are in a manufacturing line or tied to a manufacturing line or an R&D lab, you got to be there. And then the choices for companies are, can you keep that environment safe with social distancing, protective equipment, so you can keep people working? If not, it might be better to shut down operations for a while or to keep everybody safe. But if 75% of the work that people do in regular times can be done through their computer, and digital technology is fine for the communications, things like texting, video conferencing, teleconferencing, emails and calls and so on, then working from home works out very, very well. In normal times, I tell you, you want to be bringing people into the office 1 or 2 days a week for that face-to-face connection and to keep people feeling good about what they do, feeling good about their friends and so on and so forth. I would tell you to do that, but in these times you can't. The other thing is that we have a category called mobile workers, and there are people that work at the customer's site or they work in a supplier's site. But again, if most of what they do is through digital technology, through their computer, they can work at home during this challenging period. Let's talk about what's really essential, and the first thing to understand about keeping your operations productive, having people feeling a part of the team and having a good experience. And it's really about a lot of clarity and a lot of operating norms. And we're going to go through these categories. The big thing is keeping alignment to the organization's strategies and success, greetings, over-communicating, building that relationship, having good practices for goals and follow up on goals. Responsiveness, managers are always worried. How do you keep people, how do I know I can keep my team focused on what's really important in a fast changing environment? I'll show you how to do that. Team behaviors, and these team behavior norms begin with empathy. And meetings. I would tell you to keep your regularly scheduled meetings, but get used to doing through video conferencing. That's going to be a great tool for you. And then digital storage. People often overlook this, but how am I going to access files I would get normally at work? That's a very important component to work on. Also to make sure that there's good Wi-Fi out there and people are taking advantage of it. And then the final one, socializing. Be sure to have some fun. So let's take them real quickly. Again, this is an overview, and I'll have more detailed podcasts coming up. Aligning to the organization's strategies, to its culture, the big overriding goals, what's happening in the organization. That's incumbent on the leaders from the top executive to the team managers to communicate, and allow people to ask questions. So it's very important for the CEO or the president of the company to have very regular, I would say during these times, weekly communications with employees. It might be through an email, better yet a town hall meeting on video conference or teleconference. Let people know what's going on. And the lack of good knowledge, factual-based, reliable knowledge, people's fears run wild and then they make up some pretty wild rumors. So you want to keep those communications flowing. For the team managers, it's keep your regular weekly staff meetings or daily scrum meetings, or keep your one-on-ones, your project team meetings, but work to make that a video conferencing that's much better than teleconferencing. And we'll talk about that. As you start your meetings, put a lot of time on greetings. If you're on a video conference, go around the room and greet people individually. Ask them how they're doing. Allow for chit-chat back and forth across video conferencing like you would in a normal conference room or team meeting room. Actually give a little extra time for that. How are people doing? How's the routine at work going? How are their families during this time of where everyone's worried about health? That's very important. I tell workers, when you start your day, send your boss a text or call him or call her. Say, hey, I'm starting work on this project. I hope you're doing well. Tell them when you're taking a break for lunch. Tell them at the end of the day, tell them you're headed home, maybe what issues you have. Just like you are in the office, emphasizing, over-communicating, greetings, having this social contact is very important. Now we're just doing it on virtual technology. Goals, having good practices around setting goals, having people understand their goals is critically important. Whether you use SMART goals or what I like now are OKRs, organizational key results, it's very important to keep a focus on these goals. Asking people how they, without hounding them on it, but how is it going? How are you able to keep up with things? Working from home? What obstacles do you have? How, as your boss, may I help you overcome them? What questions do you have? Can you find things? Which goals are you struggling with? These are critical. If you want to understand about how to set up OKRs, I have a blog on that on my website, victorhrconsultant.com. You can also go to the blog page, and it's under Flexible Workplace, that blog, and under leadership, team leadership. But OKRs are really critical, but the larger issue here is keep a focus on the goals and what obstacles people may have in overcoming them. Communications and responsiveness. Managers always worry when people work from home, how can I keep my people focused? How can I tell them about changing priorities? How do I know that they're working? Frankly, they work harder and longer when they work from home. And for you people working at home, you have to learn to set limits. But regarding communications and responsiveness, let me give you a kind of a code I like. And what that is that if your boss calls or somebody else calls, understand that the call is urgent. Have everybody understand that. And if you can't take the call because you're in a meeting, right when you're done with that meeting, call that person back right away. Listen to the message or call them back right away. If it's not urgent, needing immediate response, text them. Texting, have that be an understanding. Get back to me within the hour. And if it's something you need like by lunch or by the end of the day, send an email. And of course, email is great for a little more nuance, having attachments and that sort of thing. But in this way, you can have a sort of a hierarchy of responsiveness by how you communicate. And if you use Slack for texting, use that platform, use the different channels that you have on that platform. If you have Slack and then Teams and then this and then that, I'd tell you, pick one. Don't confuse people, overburden people with too many ways of how to communicate. Team behavior norms. Let's start with a lot of empathy and understanding, manager to team to manager, team with each other, and those outside of the team. Again, I can't overemphasize greeting, allowing people to talk about their experience. That's critically important. When you have meetings and you're about to make a decision, go around the video conference room, if you will. Make sure, does anybody have any last thoughts or questions? And when you begin a meeting, again, go around the room. Allow time for people to say how they're feeling, what's going on. Same thing as you close. If you find in a meeting that there's only 1 or 2 people out of 10 that are talking, search out the others who aren't talking and make sure there's equal participation. With these practices, you can have just as effective team meetings through video conference as you can face-to-face. But remember, the power of video conferencing is eyeball to eyeball. And as a team leader, look at the expressions of people. If someone looks confused or they don't understand, check in with them. That's why you want to use video conferencing. So those are great team behavior norms to use, and I encourage you to do it. And you're going to the virtual world, the face-to-face world. My prediction is when this coronavirus is over or we take a break from it, we're going to find more use of work from home, and more of this virtual technology will be very critical to use. But the thing about the virtual technology is you have to be careful about it. So if you have kids at home, teenagers, hey kids, when I'm on one of these meetings, please don't be downloading a video or playing a video game. You have to guard your bandwidth, call up your server or the people who provide it for you, see if you can get that powered up. If you're on a meeting and all of a sudden it starts to break up, go to a rule that if all of you are showing your faces, stop your videos unless you're speaking. That usually can clear up the bandwidth and you can see and hear much better. The other thing to think about is digital file storage. You may already have some good digital file storage, but again, make sure everyone knows which platform you're using, where the files are, what they look like. That's worth a meeting. And if you have files that people only could access at work, get a team together about how we can get those up, obeying social distancing on a virtual platform for your file server. That's critically important. And then the last one is socializing. Have fun. Have people tell you about what's a new TV show that they've begun to watch since they're working at home when they're not working. What's been their funnest routine in the morning. What's been maybe the most frustrating thing they've had and how they've overcome it. Tell stories, have fun, have recognitions where maybe everyone has food delivered to their home as opposed to that recognition in the office together. Think of ways to have fun, keep people in a good spirit. This is critically important. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Look for the next series in this blog where I'll be talking about key themes. And if there's something you want me to cover, send me an email at va@victorhrconsultant.com. Or call me or send me a text at 707-331-6740. Thank you very much, and for now, goodbye.